But it's like really short. But no, no, it was just one of those things. I know, like, I was last time. The earliest thing we could do. I'll talk about it a little bit. But there's some food and stuff.
Anyone else here?
Miguel.
Thanks. Are we live? Are we good? Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Commissioner Figueroa, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and can we please get roll call?
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Here.
Commissioner Figueroa,
Here.
Commissioner Diaz,
Here.
Commissioner Navarrete,
Here.
and Vice Chair, I'm sorry, Chair Beamer.
Here. Thank you. So we're gonna move on to approval of the agenda. At this time, the commission may announce any items being pulled from the agenda or continue to another date or request the moving of an item on the agenda. Do we have any requests from the commission? Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll go ahead and motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Can we get a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. And can we please get roll call?
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes, here, yes.
Commissioner Figueroa,
Aye.
Commissioner Diaz,
Aye.
Vice Chair Navarrete,
Aye.
and Chair Beamer.
Aye. We're gonna move on to approval of the minutes. This is for planning commission meeting minutes for April 6, 2022. Did commissioners get an opportunity to look at the minutes? And if so, do you have any corrections or any recommendations for staff? No, okay, seeing none, can we get someone to motion?
A motion to approve as presented.
Thank you. Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Perfect. And can we get roll call, please?
Commissioner Gonzalez,
See,
Commissioner Figueroa,
Aye.
Yes.
Vice Chair Navarrete,
Aye.
and Chair Beamer.
Aye. Thank you. We're gonna move on to written communications. Do we have anything, staff?
Nothing from staff.
Okay, perfect. So we're gonna move on to public comments on non-agenda items. Okay, the public may address the commission on any item of interest to the public that is not on the agenda, but is within the subject matter jurisdiction thereof. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comments at this time? Okay, I don't see
None
any.
on Zoom.
Okay. So we're gonna move on to reports and requests. Do we have any requests from the commission for staff?
Just, I did have a question or request kind of on kind of the updates on where the different stages of the dispensaries that have been approved, where the split stages they're in, like the ones that are already.
Oh, like a report?
Yeah, yeah, just,
Okay, yeah, is that available? So do that for the next meeting.
thank you.
And do we have any reports from staff?
No reports from staff.
Okay,
I actually have a question in regards to the apartments being built here on 6. Is that, do we have a timeline on when people are gonna move in? When they're gonna start looking at applications or things like that?
Yeah, so they're still like that, they're still looking to get their final. And so actually the applicant's here. So they're kind of working with us on this too, right? So they got a temporary street occupancy for the first floor. But I know they're finishing at the second and third floors still. And I don't think there's any change yet. Next week, yeah. So I think probably move in for everyone is probably gonna be towards the end of this month.
Okay.
okay, wonderful. Okay, so we don't have any non-hearing items. So we're gonna go straight to public hearing. And our first item is item number 2, AMPM. This is a type 21 alcohol sales. Whenever you're ready, staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Nikki Gomez, Associate Planner, and before you tonight is the conditional use permit 350 AMPM type 21 alcohol license. So this item was introduced to you back in March 16th, as it was continued to this date, to the date certain. Kind of just going through the PowerPoint presentation here very shortly. Location is the southwest corner of Avenue 48 and Greenwood Boulevard. And the establishment is the AMPM convenience store, and so they're proposing to have a type 21 off-sale general liquor license, which authorizes them to sell beer, wine, and distilled spirits. However, today, as of late this afternoon, the applicant had reached out and also requested a continuance for this item for the earliest date in June, which that will be the June 1st meeting. And so staff is recommending the Planning Commission to continue the consideration of resolution number PC 2022-07 to a date certain of June 1st. And as they are still evaluating the proposed project's conditions of approval. So that's staff report for you tonight.
Okay. Does the commission have any questions? Is Henry on? Do I have to open up the public hearing if we're continuing the item? I don't-
Yes, I'm on.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
yeah, we can hear you.
No, you don't need to open up the public comment since you'll be hearing it on June 1st. Then we could do the public hearing then.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so can I get a motion from the commission to continue this item to June 1st, 2022?
I'll make a motion to extend to June 1st.
Can we get a
2022.
second?
I'll go ahead and second Commissioner Gonzalez's motion.
Can we get roll call?
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Figueroa,
Aye.
Commissioner Leal,
Aye.
Vice Chair Navarrete,
Aye.
and Chair Lee.
Aye. Okay, we're gonna move on to item number 3. This is the Tripoli mixed use project, and this was continued from our meeting in April 13th. Whenever you're ready.
And there's a PowerPoint presentation for this. You can pull it up. Tripoli. Item 3. I'll go first and then you'll have opportunity to speak after. No, that's not the right one. Well, good evening, Chair, members of the Plan Commission. Gabriel Perez, your Development Services Director. So this item is for the Tripoli Mixed Use Project. There are 3 entitlements that are being requested, which is for a change of zone, a conditional use permit, and an architectural review for this mixed use project. That's 108 affordable apartment units and 2 retail spaces on 2.8 acres. The applicant is Chelsea Investment Corporation, and they're here tonight. This is a vicinity map that shows an aerial that shows the location of where this is proposed at the northeast corner of Cesar Chavez and Baghdad Avenue. There are 2 parcels that it's located on. Again, it's 2.8 acres. It's also in an area known as the Pueblo Viejo District, according to the Pueblo Viejo Revitalization Plan. And so there are guidelines for that district that we typically ask projects to comply with. This is a perspective shot from that plan. And so what I did here is kind of highlight where this kind of fits in that perspective. And so being at the corner, it's a kind of an entry point to the 6th Street. So it has a very important location for the city. Obviously, Chelsea has also constructed the other Pueblo Viejo Villas project, which is on the other side. So you can kind of see how important this is for the downtown. Here's a old design. I'm assuming this is a design from the 80s that shows conceived development for the downtown. And so this in red is the boundaries of this project site. So it kind of shows that this was intended to be kind of similar in design to what there is being proposed today. And so it shows future development on that property. But this project has a similar form and character to what was anticipated back then. And if you ever want to see this plan, it's outside my office, and it's a big long plan on the wall. So, but it's really nice to see. So this is a site plan that's proposed. So there's two buildings that are proposed as part of this project. One of the buildings is a 3-story building, 49,794 square feet. That would have 44 apartment units. And so that's the building that you can see there. That's has frontage on 6th Street and Baghdad Avenue. And then it would have retail space. So that pink area that you could see along 6th Street would be the retail space on the ground floor. 1,805 square feet. Building B would be that L-shaped building. And so it would have frontage on Cesar Chavez Street as well as Baghdad Avenue. That would be a 4-story building. Total square footage is 71,079 square feet. It would have 64 apartment units. There would be a 1,296 square foot community room, and there would also be ground floor retail space of 1,413 square feet. And there would be an outdoor top lot on site, which would hard to tell on this. Let's see. I'm not going to be able to make it work, but it's it's to the north of the L-shaped building. That building, and it's outdoors. So what does building A look like? So the colored version on the left-hand side is would be building A. I'm sorry, on the first floor is shown here, and on the right is the levels 2 and 3. So there are 3 stories to this building. The first floor, as I mentioned, has a retail space, and there's different entryways into this building. So there's a main entryway, C, which is the lobby, which is more internal to the project by the parking lot. But there's also a different access that's by the retail space that would have direct access to Tripoli. There are 2 stairways and a laundry facility. And then you can kind of see the proposed floor layout for levels 2 and 3. Building B is L-shaped, and so the colored version is the first floor, and building B would include the larger community room that would serve the entire project. The retail space is located at the corner, which is probably the best location for this for this project. Laundry facilities are proposed, and then there's a you can see with the X's on the first floor by the lobby is where the elevators are proposed for this building. Now, building A does not propose elevators, so I want to be clear about that. So building B would have elevators because it's a 4-story building, and that's required under building code. So these are the unit types that are proposed. So there are 4 different unit types that range in size. I think it's 561. I can't see it. 581 to 1,061 square feet, and so so there are various unit types proposed within both buildings. And this is an affordable project as well, so that's a benefit. It does look really nice as they've designed this project based on a lot of comments that staff has given them, and then you can see what they originally proposed is pretty high quality in terms of the project. But as a bonus to that, this is also an affordable housing project, which 100% affordable, which is 58 units at very low income and 50 units at low income. So here's a perspective view of the project of the 4-story building. This is the building B. And so the 2 streets that you can see here on the right-hand side would be Baghdad Avenue. Left-hand side would be Cesar Chavez Street. You can see the buildings brought up to the street, you know, in keeping with the vision for Pueblo Viejo to have more of a street scene and have buildings fronting along the street. Then you have street trees and commercial building, part of the building you could see on the first floor. So it's delineated from the rest of the building, so you can tell it's a commercial space. And the rest of the project, you can see the residential stories, the second, third, and fourth floor. There is residential on the first floor, as you can see on the right and left-hand side of the retail. And currently on this project, the way that this is proposed would have internal access. So it's provided by hallways that are inside the building. The other thing I want to point out, you can see diagonal parking on this picture on Baghdad Avenue. So what the applicant is proposing and the city is agreeable to is for them to be able to improve the street so that there is diagonal parking that could be used to serve the project. But because it is an affordable project and because of state density bonus laws, they already meet the on-site parking requirements under state law. They actually, for an affordable project in proximity to the transit hub, you know, they essentially wouldn't need to provide any parking because of that. So I think this is a good, essentially a compromise to make sure, you know, there aren't any kind of traffic or parking impacts. And additionally, they're providing additional parking that could be used anywhere by anyone in the city for the downtown. So these are elevations for Cesar Chavez Street. And so you could see the retail space on the first floor, as well as the community room. So it looks like it's kind of a consistent form there. And the retail. So the residential. The project is designed with Spanish colonial revival design and architecture. Originally, the project was proposed more modern, so we did ask them to design it more with Spanish colonial revival, kind of similar to the Pueblo Viejo Villas project. And so that's what they've done here. So you can see the reform is kind of varied, where they have the projecting elements and they have the red tile roof elements that are consistent with that design. There are wrought iron balconies for each of the residential units. What I noticed on the perspective drawings, as you could tell, is that maybe it's hard to tell here, but a lot of the windows are recessed, which is common for Spanish colonial revival design. The canopies are consistent, so you'll see a lot of those wrought iron forms that project diagonally from the building plane. Let's see what else. And one of the things, I'm not sure if it's including this, but one of the things that we did recommend in the conditions of approval is that the stucco will be like a smooth finish. And so maybe the applicant can talk to that about that later. But so you know, largely what's presented kind of complies with that architectural form. Baghdad Avenue, you could see on this elevation, you could see the first floor residential, which wouldn't have the balconies. It would just have a kind of floor ground level patio area. On Tripoli Way frontage, you would see part of the retail that really fronts 6th Street, but you can see that entrance off of Tripoli to the project as well. And the elevations, and this is the 3-story building. And at the bottom, you can see the 6th Street frontage. So they do a good job as providing for complete retail coverage of the first floor, fronting 6th Street, since we really want to make sure there's a lot of retail and destinations for the community. And then you can see big tower elements that are provided at the corners of each building. So see that tower element there and the bigger tower element at the corner of Cesar Chavez and Baghdad Avenue. And so we did give some design comments to the applicant. And so the original designs I was showing you don't actually have all the new changes that they've made. So I want to make that clear, but you could kind of see here, and I think you do have material for as a copy in front of you. But if you could see here, they have kind of like the finial treatments on the top of the tower, which I think is a good element and kind of common with Spanish colonial revival architecture. Kind of the boosted tiles on the roof are provided, which is important as well. And the applicant can talk about some of the other things that they've done. See the bottom trim of the building, before it was more of a gray color. So you could see on that image, and now you can see it's more of that brick kind of veneer, that they carry that style throughout the first floor of the residential units as well. So this is the color pattern, and then you can see their tile elements too. So you can see the blue and white tile element that would be included along the facade of the room. These were some recommendations that we provided to the applicant, just about the depth. One of the things that we thought with the windows, if they could do like a sloped element, which is common with that design. And then so it would also be good because a lot of times like they didn't perch on just kind of flat, like little perches, and so it would be too good to avoid that issue. The other recommendation that we have is having entrances off the street. And so I think that was a comment maybe the plan commissioners had for the Pueblo Viejo Villas project. And so they provided some of the entrances to the street. That is still a recommendation that we included with the conditions of approval, but we'd like the plan commission to weigh in on that. And then, we had some recommendations on some of the balconies and then some of the treatments on top of the roof that the applicant has accommodated. As far as the landscape plan, this is the landscape plan as presented. So we provided some comments that are addressed in the conditions of approval. I think here, how this is going to look on Cesar Chavez Street is going to be important to the street tree. Currently, what's proposed right now in that landscape plan are California fan palms. And so you might have recalled when we had that presentation on the heat island effect, it's like the more that we can do with shade trees, kind of the better. And so what we're recommending is, okay, let's keep some of the trees there. Let's convert those California fan palms to date palm, but take out some of the palm trees, replace those with the Hong Kong orchid tree, which is that tree that has the pink flowers. And we thought that mix would provide shade that people would want walking down Cesar Chavez Street. But then you'd also have to look at maybe some of the big palms that kind of majestic looking, right? So, and these are the other trees that are proposed, the mulga tree, the desert willow, Texas ebony, Drake elm, and the California fan palm. So the replacement that we've asked for is the California fan palm to be the date palm, but that there actually be less than the ones that are proposed in landscape plan, and then more of the Hong Kong orchid tree. And here's a look at the plants that are proposed. And so we've recommended no changes. We think this will be a good look for the project. The only thing that we don't know about in the landscape plan are the quantities. And so we'll work with the applicant on the quantities to make sure it kind of fills out the landscape areas. One thing that we want to see more of the landscape plan, if you could see on the Cesar Chavez side of the street, the pedestrian area is kind of wider along the retail area, and then it kind of narrows down in front of the residential portion to the north. So we actually want to see more of that pedestrian space be expanded. So that landscape area we want to see reduced a little bit. So it's a better pedestrian environment along Cesar Chavez Street. And we want to move the date palms so that, the trees so that they're closer to the curb. So you notice from the Pueblo Viejo Villas project, the date palms that were planted are actually on the other side of the sidewalk. So instead of this, we actually want it closer to the street. And so pedestrians can walk on the other side of the trees and it'll provide more of that shading effect. So I don't know if you noticed that from that project, this one we wanted to treat a little bit different and we think it would be better. As far as zoning consistency, so the zone is the general commercial zone, right? The general plan is downtown center. General commercial is not consistent with downtown center. So right now, general commercial does not allow mixed use projects. So the only way for them to do this project is if they do a zone change and a plan unit development. So if you're familiar with plan unit development, it's something in the code that allows the applicant with a conditional use permit and the changes zone to propose their own standards. So they can propose to do mixed use under the plan unit development, and that's what they're proposing to do. But everything that they're proposing to do is consistent with the vision of the general plan and the Pueblo Viejo revitalization plan. So in the Pueblo Viejo revitalization plan, the area marked in blue, it actually calls for it to be like 2 subzones. One is the Cesar Chavez Street sub area, and then the other is the 6th Street sub area. So it's over like 2 zones. So we asked the applicant to look at those standards and to kind of incorporate those into their plan unit development so that it's consistent. And so they have, so these would be the central standards in the plan unit development. So obviously, which are things we want to see, like no front setback, right? Is just having buildings up to the street or the right of way. The minimum building height. So they're building at the highest is 60 feet, but there actually is no maximum in the Pueblo Viejo revitalization plan, but it actually wants you to do at least 3 stories. And so they're obviously doing that with this project. The other is density. So they are at a density of 36 dwelling units per acre. And so that's consistent with the Pueblo Viejo plan, which calls for densities of 20 to 65 dwelling units per acre. And that parking could be used on the street to count towards parking requirements. They don't need that at all, but we thought it made sense to incorporate what the Pueblo Viejo revitalization plan asked for and include it in their development. Because also they're going to have retail space too, right? So they want to make sure that they can satisfy those parking requirements as well. And then the unit sizes are smaller than usually what our municipal code allows. But I think staff is comfortable with the size of the units and also understanding that they're trying to achieve a certain level of affordability for the project. Again, I mentioned the density of the project, 38 dwelling units per acre, and the maximum height is 60 feet. And that's pretty much it in terms of the project. In terms of environmental review, it is an infill project, so it could be determined to be exempt from CEQA. Also, it would qualify the SB 35 project, where under CEQA, under the state law, it wouldn't require any further review under CEQA. So I just wanted to be clear about that. So based on what's been presented, staff does recommend the Plan Commission adopt the resolution for the change of zone and the resolution for the conditional use permit and architectural review with the findings and conditions recommended by staff. So in front of you, I put an errata sheet because I didn't include this engineering comment about Cesar Chavez Street. It doesn't really impact the project too much. It's just there's no street widening or anything like that they have to do. It's just calling for the streetscape improvements to occur between curb and right of way. The other one on the errata sheet is that I had a mistake on the planning and development standard. So if you look at the allowed residential densities, in the staff report, it mentions 2 dwelling units per acre. But even though the text says 20, so that just needs to be fixed. But it's a big deal. And then the other thing is that the staff report and the resolution mentions that it's conditional use permit 251. So that's what's in the rata sheet. So based on that, staff does recommend approval. The applicant is in the audience as well as the architects, and so they can speak to the project if you have any questions. And I believe they have a presentation too, so.
Okay, wonderful.
We have a traffic plan that has been done in the project and the impact of what the traffic flow looks like.
I think I have to open up the public
Oh,
hearing,
sure.
so apologies for that. Do commissioners have any questions or comments for staff right now?
Not right now.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and open up the public hearing at 6:31 PM.
Good evening. My name is David Davis. I work for Chelsea Investment and we're located in Carlsbad. Gabriel did a great job on the presentation. I don't have much else to say, except I can introduce Chelsea for those that aren't familiar. You have that.
Oh,
There we are.
oh, can you do this? Okay, I'm sorry.
Just hit to the right. Okay, so this is, like Gabriel said, the Tripoli project. We just recently finished or about to wrap up on the Pueblo Viejo Village across the street. And I gotta say, a couple weeks ago, I came down Cesar Chavez and saw that building. My jaw dropped out. It's just so beautiful, you know? So with these architects, we have Keith and Hill, and I'm expecting, I told them I want this new project to look better than that one. So they got their challenges. So move on here. So this is our team here. Colleen Edwards is our senior development executive. She's managing the entire process from top to bottom. I'm Dave Davis, development manager, so I work getting the entitlements with Gabriel and going through the permit process and getting the final building permits. And then I stay on to make sure that the project is consistent and everything I promised Gabriel happens on the project. And we work closely with Andrew Simmons and, you know, so you guys have a great team at the city right now. It's a lot of fun. So Alex Earl does the day-to-day grind work on all the applications and financing and getting the project leased up. And Eddie Yepes, he was the construction project manager for across the street. He'll also be working on this project. And Lisa Young is our asset manager because these projects go into a 55-year holding pattern and we maintain the projects for that amount of time. And we also have like an on-site manager that lives in each project. So Chelsea here has developed over 13,000 affordable apartments in 135 communities in California, Arizona, New Mexico. Chelsea did start about 30 years ago in Calexico and moved our way up to El Centro and City of Imperial and Raleigh. And I think this is our fourth project now in Coachella. So we have a great team working with the city and Chelsea and getting some affordable housing built. So here I had to show off our Pueblo Viejo Village project to another presentation. In the upper right-hand corner, you see a new project that we're developing in El Centro. And in the southwestern corner is our Pueblo Viejo project. That was an artist rendering. And the picture in the lower right-hand corner, that project was actually built in 1983. And I put that in there because it shows that how we maintain the projects over a long period of time. And so this is our Pacific Southwest Community Development Corporation is our nonprofit partner. And we work together with them to include services for after-school programs, tutoring, adult education, skill building classes. And all these services are provided on site free of charge to the residents. And that's the project. I think we beat that one up pretty good. So overall, we have 108 units, family apartments, ground floor commercial, 2 residential buildings. Again, we have the on-site management, tot lot equipment, play area, barbecue, clubhouse, computer labs, laundry facilities, multi-purpose rooms, leasing offices. And this project started off with the IIG funding, similar to across the street with the Pueblo Viejo. We had IIG funding and cap and trade. And so we had a joint application with the city of Coachella. We got some money to do some of our on-site improvements in Sixth Street. And the city got a bunch of money to work on like the signal down at Grapefruit, Sixth Street, and do the improvements they did. And as cost of construction went up and we all both ran out of money, we weren't quite finished with Sixth Street. So we thought, well, let's take this project and we'll apply for IIG again. And that will enable us to finish up Sixth Street, and we'll improve Tripoli, Baghdad, and there's some other pedestrian crossings that we're going to correct and signal modifications. So I work closely with Andrew Simmons on that, and we worked out some pretty good designs. To answer your question, there was a traffic report. Just get that one out of the way. So yeah, we plan on starting construction toward the end of the year, and we figure these projects take about 18 months to get people inside. Gabriel covered the 3-story building, the 2-story building, 4-story building. And I think we covered the size of the retail space. I sort of rounded off, but. And I think we went through that. That's the site plan. That's the preliminary grading plan. Work with Benjamin Egan, very detailed engineer. And then our project benefits that we're taking care of some of the housing needs in Riverside County. A lot of street improvements for pedestrians, taking vacant land, turn it into a beautiful project, high quality project, meeting the California housing goals. This says for farm workers. I don't think this project involves farm workers. That's my typo. And then these projects also boost the local economy, activity through temporary construction, employment, ongoing consumer purchases, and access to affordable housing improves an employer's ability to attract and retain employees and remain competitive in a growing economic community. And I remember having a conversation with the city manager at the time, about 4 years ago, City of Coachella. We were going back and forth on the city wanted more retail, more commercial. And I was explaining to them that you just got to build housing first. So people are here, their money gets spent in the community, and it works out pretty good. So I think that's all I have. I just wanted to clarify that when we did apply for the IG application, we had the SB 35 in place. And the intent of these approvals would be to replace that. So I think that's all I have. If you have any questions.
Thank you. Do commissioners have any questions?
Could I get a copy of the traffic report? You didn't submit it with this
I did.
application?
City,
Was that
yeah,
included?
Andrew has it.
Yeah.
Andrew has it? The elevation you showed on the color elevation facing coming east. You have pavers out on the Cesar Chavez, is that correct? Is that
Oh,
part
at
of
the
it?
intersection?
Yeah.
We haven't proposed that yet. No, that's part of the Pueblo Viejo Civic Plan. But
Okay,
we haven't proposed to do that. We are taking that intersection, and with Andrew Simmons, we're gonna, right now, it's at an angle. Is that an angle? Yeah, so we're trying to straighten it out to make it more 90 degrees. And we have to go out and look at that with the driveways across the street for the retail. Andrew wants to straighten that out and maybe have a free right there. But we haven't discussed putting in pavers, the Bowmanite or
yeah,
Stanford.
because it looks to me that that shopping center that's existing there is part of the new development, is that correct, or?
It's not. There's a piece of property to.
Yeah, it's that
On the
triangle.
northwest corner. Oops. On the northwest corner is,
Have you guys approached those?
we
landlords?
have, yeah, the guys, he purchased it as an investment. I've had a hard time communicating with him. I think city managers talked to him. And I don't think he's interested in selling it right now, but the city could always make an offer and clean that up.
Yeah, that'd be the ideal scenario, and also the existing houses on Baghdad and Tripoli way in the corner there.
Yeah, I did not approach them. I just
Yeah.
assumed that,
I just
I'm
thought
pretty
that,
happy with the rest.
yeah, I thought that, you're starting with a clean slate, I mean, it would be a beautiful.
It was a
development.
super challenging property, looking at the configuration of the lot
Yeah.
lines. I'm like, I go, you want a challenging project or you goal.
Yeah.
I think they
no.
did a great job.
I mean, they might be offers. I mean, I don't know if it's too late now. We can incorporate that in and, you know, start a dialogue with those
Yeah,
landowners.
yeah, at this point, but you know, you gotta figure the value of housing today. Each one of those houses is probably, I don't know, $400,000 or $500,000, I don't know. And so that just adds $1.5 million to the project, and I don't know how many more units we actually get, so.
Yeah, it's all relative, I guess, you know.
Yeah. We thought about it at first. I tried to incorporate that whole block, but
Do we have any other questions from commissioners?
Yeah, my only concern on the 4-story is that we don't have a public safety vehicle there to accommodate just in case of emergency. We don't have a ladder, a truck with a ladder on it. that
oh,
could,
you don't have a snorkel that.
No, we don't have any of
high?
that stuff existing, so that's a concern, and, you know, I've shared that with some of the leadership, and
Mhm.
I don't know where we're at in terms of, you know, down the road purchasing, but I think before we finish this project, I mean, there has to be something that in case of emergency, because 4-story, you know, we're up there.
There's
we don't
no
have to-
other 4-story buildings in Coachella.
No, not that I know of. I don't know what the clinic is. What's the clinic on? Is that 3-story or?
The
On,
Brightwell Health, the one on
Oh,
50th.
Brightwell
Calhoun, yeah,
Health?
Calhoun and 50.
That might be actually, oh, no.
I think it's
The
two-story.
Is it 2-story? Okay. Yeah, so this is probably, I think, the only 4-story building we have in town, you know, so.
Yeah, well, other than a fire, which would be the worst case scenario. When Chelsea puts in elevators, we always put in 2 elevators because many times one is not working and the other one is. So we just learned that lesson, because if one elevator is not working, somebody needs to get off the 3rd floor or 2nd floor, all of a sudden they call 911 and we pay for it. So
Yeah, and then my concern too is the 3-story. We don't have no elevators for posted 3-story.
we do not. It's a-
I don't know if I could, you know,
Well, it's a 2-story building is 1 flight of stairs, and a 3-story building is 2 flights of stairs.
yeah, no, I understand.
It's just, you're there, so
Yeah. So we had that same
conversation.
conversation
We
on the
did.
previous building. So
I'm begging you, just let me have this one.
yeah, well, I mean, we need to, you know, my concern is obviously public safety. You know, we have people there, elderly, that decide they want to live at that location. And realistic for them to come down a flight of stairs, sometimes it's impossible. for-
Yeah. there
And
are
then this is
certain-
affordable housing, so you're gonna have a cross section of, you know, elderly and handicapped people that are.
We do, and those units are identified, so somebody who's handicapped obviously is not gonna live on the 2nd or 3rd floor of building A. But whenever we put in elevators, those, you know, that opens up the whole building to ADA compliance, so. So there's,
I don't know, I have a concern
I
on
don't
that
think
one. I
there's that
just,
high a percentage of handicapped people that'll be moving into the project, but
well, I mean, they should be entitled to whatever they wanna, if it's available.
Yeah.
you know.
there's
They should
quite a
have-
bit available, yeah.
Yeah, if they're available, it's, you know, they should be entitled to where they want, you know.
Mhm. And we purposely added, because of the elevator conversation, we did add a 4th floor to that building. As I said, if I'm putting in elevators, I'm gonna add a 4th floor. Steve Hernandez wanted more units in that area. That was the best way I could achieve it.
Can we maybe look at the future, you know, with actually being, maybe looking for future funding, or we could put the elevators in? I mean, I'm concerned about that. I honestly don't know if I could support this. I want to make sure there's elevators there
Yeah.
for people in the community, you know.
This ship has kind of sailed at this point, but that'd be a complete redesign of the building A.
Well, you're gonna incorporate you know, the elevators into an existing project, which I don't, you know,
Yeah, the project across the street, when we had that same situation, that was all one building, so those elevators could be shared.
even if they hang on the outside, I mean, they can put the ones that are, you know, they hang on the outside instead of inside the building, you know.
Yeah,
You have a hallway and then you have access to the elevator.
I appreciate your comment. It's not being proposed at this time.
Hmm.
Do we have any other comments?
The
from commissioners?
walkway on Cesar Chavez that Gabe mentioned, so that's a good idea, that, because I walk my home down to 6th Street in the morning every day.
Mhm.
And so right now it's wide enough for pedestrians, so yeah, it should stay wide for the pedestrian to be able to walk, so
The wider sidewalk to the corner of
Yeah,
6th Street.
yeah.
Yeah, I understand that.
just so that it, because there's also a lot of, there's a middle school down the street, so that way it allows the.
Yeah, and I think the sidewalks on 6th Street are wider as well, so
Mhm.
it would tie in.
Okay, yeah, and then the same on the other side.
And
And
then
then-
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Just your, private mixed use, the retail space, kind of how do you, what do you expect to put down there in those two little spots?
Well, across the street, we were talking to Steve and I was hoping to move 6th Street Coffee in there, but we didn't quite come to terms. I think he has a sweet space where he's at, by the way. I think he's made a right decision maybe, but we do have the College of the Desert moving in there in one of the spaces.
Oh, okay.
And the other space we haven't leased yet. In our affordable housing world, we put in these retail spaces because it's part of the city code and, it's all over California, have the retail down below and the units on top, but we really have a hard time leasing them because it's sort of a unique space and, but usually it could be like a bookstore or a business or, attorney, or it's not gonna be any sort of fast food or anything that's gonna require big kitchens or anything like that, but.
Commissioner Rowe, just to kind of speak to that too, because I remember that conversation was happening, and I think that the owner for 6th Street Coffee was mentioning one of the challenges for moving into the space, and that's going to be at this location too. They're like the improvements won't exist inside the building, so the restrooms, the sprinklers, those kind of improvements are up to whoever would rent the space. And so it's kind of hard for the mom and pop shops to do all those improvements. So that is a little bit of a challenge. That was something that was kind of expressed to me. And there wouldn't be a restaurant because there's no grease trap.
Right.
Right. So there wouldn't be a restaurant because that's not available there. So that expense would have to be borne by someone that's going to.
But we do work with them and, depending on the terms of that lease, we do a lot of those improvements.
Oh, okay.
Or they can do it. So, but the more we do, then the lease is a little higher. So
Just important, especially because there's a large market across the street. So there's that's the competition there, but more of a different type of, I've seen mixed use like that in universities where they have the first floor with retail and it's more like a convenience store style. Maybe like a Walgreens style, like a small, I've seen that in other places where it's mixed use, where it's like a CVS, like a small CVS just for small items.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
and possibly, the DPSS building, is that what it is?
Yeah.
They may expand, needs more offices.
Yeah.
That'd be a good fit for them. But like I said, we pretty much on our performer, we discount them out and kind of pretend it's not going to happen.
Yeah. My
And
question.
even in the city of San Diego, I know recently they had several retail spaces that the city allowed them to convert them to units, to more affordable housing units because they couldn't lease it out. So,
Any other
but we'll
questions?
try.
Have you had that conversation with our mayor and some of the leadership in reference to because ultimately they're gonna make the ultimate decision in terms of those elevators should be there or not, We'll make a recommendation, but they're gonna vote on it.
They're going to vote on it as well. Yes.
So,
Any other comments or questions?
I think it's important for the community to have an elevator. I agree with Commissioner Gonzalez, 3 stories, and it's pretty tall, especially for elderly persons or handicapped persons. I think we should look for the community and see what's best for them. I think we need to put more effort into building design. So I think integrating an elevator will be helpful, and really I think we should just go with an elevator.
Okay.
Even though it's more expensive, I understand it has to be redesigned and everything, but I think it's something that we can do.
We have 7 floors of residential, and only 2 are not available to wheelchairs. So 5 out of 7 is not bad.
Yes, but in this low income community, so I think they should have the same advantage of the other building, not only building B with elevators as well as building A. So I think it's important for the community.
Any other comments?
I did see in the plans, you're gonna feature site of electric vehicle charging stations.
That's on the civil plan, yes.
Okay, so it's proposed, right? It's not
There's a
gonna,
lot of them, yeah.
okay.
The new TCAP regulations require quite a bit more.
And would those be open to just residents, or is it gonna be open to the public for like other residents in the
It
community?
would be residents, but I'm thinking we should have, something out on 6th Street and not Sixth Street,
Oh, no,
Tripoli and Baghdad.
Tripoli, yeah,
Because I think they put a card in it and
because you do have, thinking about if that retail space is gonna have something people come, they have the space,
right.
when I look at my app, I know where to charge my electric car, so I'm gonna stop there, go and walk
Yeah,
around. So
I'm not sure what the new codes are on that yet. I gotta figure that out, but I know we're required to put in one. It's available to anybody in the project, but I'm always trying to push for a few more because my wife's trying to look at an electric car and I'm like, I don't know where to charge it. Because we're way behind the curve on that, charging stations.
Okay, do we have any public comments? Were you able to take a look at the participants?
We didn't receive any advance of the meeting and it looks like there are none on Zoom.
Okay. Okay, any other comments, questions from fellow commissioners?
I'd say good luck trying to make it look better than that one here.
I think you're up for the challenge.
Yeah, my only comment is, and I completely understand the situation with the elevators, and it does make sense that, we would have some, but I think we have the opportunity here to provide affordable housing to our community and surrounding communities. I think it's no secret to all of us that, the state as a whole and all of our cities are really struggling when it comes to housing, especially affordable housing. So I'm in full support of this project. I think that, the one on 6th Street is looking wonderful and I can't wait to see these 2 new buildings. So I fully support it. So we appreciate it. Thank you. At this time, at 6:52 p.m., I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing.
Chair Reason, can I make one clarification?
Yes.
I forgot to mention that on the dais in front of you is a revised sign program.
Mhm.
So the sign program that was provided in your package
Yeah.
was for Pueblo Viejo Village, which they're kind of doing something similar,
Mhm.
right, with the channel lettering and or get a little bit type signs.
Right.
So that's what proposed for portion of the building. That should be included, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think,
it
I
is.
think it's our responsibility too, we have to be a little more consistent on our signage in the downtown area. I mean, we have the Pueblo Viejo concept and obviously it's kind of late down the game, but I think that, if that's gonna be the actual font that we use, then we should be consistent all the way downtown and try to be as consistent as possible because we have a Pueblo Viejo concept. So
Yeah, so theirs would comply with that, and they would have also, you might have seen on the Pueblo Viejo Villas, the blade sign. So they have a blade sign, and then they have a lot of like the decorative iron features in it, so we want them to do that.
I think wood, we can incorporate wood or, even carving wood with metal on it, wrought iron. We need to design the actual concept of what, the sign should realistically look like in the downtown area. The other parts of the city, I think is a little different, but I think that we should try to be as consistent as possible in the downtown area.
Okay. Well, close the public hearing at 6:53 p.m. Would anyone like to make a motion on this item?
How do we make a motion with this?
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
Yeah, how do we make a motion with this also with the elevator issue? That's I wholeheartedly support this project. It's a beautiful project. I love the project you guys just finished, but my concern and my responsibility as a commissioner is that, we provide the public safety part of it, a component to our residents,
Yeah,
So-
so, I think our legal counsel, Henry, can speak to this, but, just kind of like with typical projects, once you make the motion, someone making the motion to add the condition, and, the motion, the seconded, and then we vote on it, then obviously that would be added to the project as a condition of approval, and then move forward to the city council. Then, someone makes that motion and it's seconded, or it's not seconded, then that motion would, if it's not seconded, it would die, and then if it's seconded, but everyone doesn't vote for it, then obviously like. it would move forward.
We got it, Gabe. We got it.
Now we're really
But you
confused.
you can add that condition, right? And obviously, it wouldn't be final until the city council approves the project.
Okay.
I have a question, Gabe. So is the reason why it's not being proposed for building A, is it because it's not in our building code, meaning that it's not a requirement for them to have an elevator?
It's not a requirement, so it's required when you have above 3 floors.
Okay,
So, I mean, generally, like staff, we think it's a good idea. And, you know, we talked to that, and we're like, you know, let's see what the town commission and
Okay.
city council has to say.
gotcha. Thank you. Okay. So would anyone like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I just want to put those conditions of approval. The elevator is a conditional approval, so I don't know how I word it or,
For building A,
yeah,
just say that an elevator for building A be included.
okay. Conditions with the building, A, you said A there?
The condition, if you were to add it, just so I'll let you know how it was added for the Philadelphia Village project. There was kind of a clause in there that talked about feasibility, right? And cost feasibility. So essentially it actually couldn't happen. And then the project couldn't happen because the funding couldn't support it. Then there was a way for the project to still happen. So just something to think about. Like I wasn't here when that condition was written, but I noticed that's how that condition was worded. But you can word it obviously however you like.
Okay. Now,
Okay, so did you make the motion?
I think I do.
Okay,
I'll make a motion with a condition on the approval on the, on the building A with an elevator. Does that make sense? Or
makes sense. Do we have a, oh,
And, with the changes in the rata sheet and the sign program.
yeah.
Those are new things, right?
Mhm.
Unless you don't want to do it.
Okay, do we?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, should we add that also?
Do we have a second or do we have a different motion?
Go ahead, second them.
Okay. Anyone else?
We don't
Yeah.
go to roll call.
Okay, can we get roll call?
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Figueroa.
Aye.
Commissioner Vial.
Aye.
Commissioner Navarrete.
Aye.
And Chair Beatty.
I'm gonna go ahead and abstain. I think that the project should go as is, and I wouldn't want anything to prevent it from moving forward. So if there is any way at all that we can make sure that it still moves forward and doesn't, you know, that it's meeting its deadline, I would not want this project. We need affordable housing. We need housing in general. And so I just want to make it very clear. I'm not against this project at all. I'm all for it. But we have a building that already has an elevator. And if it's not required, I understand this is something important for our community and our commission, but I think that it would be appropriate to allow the project to move forward. So I'm just going to abstain. That motion. Thank you.
Motion passes.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to item number 4.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
And this is for Pueblo Viejo Villas sign program. And whenever you're ready, staff. Thank you.
We can share.
Thank you very much.
You can keep it anyways.
Thank you.
I'll go with it. I'll just get it. Oh, me, I have lots of stuff.
Go to the- later on,
Yeah. Different things.
when we start.
Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission, and Business Associate Planner, and before you tonight is the sign program for the Pueblo Viejo Villas, and so and as you may know, it's located on the northeast corner
Oh, it's the interpreter that we're hearing. Uh-huh. So that's it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No,
And of course, as you may recall, this went before you as a architecture review, and typically a sign program would be accompanying an architecture review. And so we wanted to make sure that we established a sign program before tenants and before the final of the project. And so this is why it's coming before you. And I just wanted to clarify with that architecture review, it was for the apartment complex as well as a transit hub, but the transit hub will not be included as part of this sign program. I just wanted to clarify that too. And so this Pueblo Viejo Villa sign program will establish essentially the consistency of the signage in terms of quality, color, size, and placement of that signage. And so we wanted to make sure that we stay consistent and it's to hold up to the highest quality for this new project. And so this sign program will identify step-by-step submittal process and or the type of signage that would be allowed and approved before our division. And so this sign program identifies the project sign identification, and as mentioned before, it will be the blade sign that would kind of mention the project. And so those are the two locations where it's proposed. So one in 6th Street and one on Cesar Chavez Street. It also identifies the retail tenant identification sign. And so these are the placements of where those signage will be located at. And so it really defines a specific location for each of those signage to just be consistent. And so there's going to be 4 retail spaces, which are the A, B, C, and D. And so let's say that A and B were to have, they have the ability to combine those units. And so resulting in an A and B, and therefore that signage will then be up to that location. And so this is just to really direct exactly those locations. E is the leasing office. So they have their own signage, but that's not part of the retail identification sign. And so these are the type of signage that would be allowed to have. So, obviously each tenant will have the ability to, incorporate their corporate signage, but we just want to make sure that, they're illuminated, whether it's internally or non-illuminated, but they have to be channel letters. If they do have aluminum backing, that all those electrical connections are to be contained and not exposed. And so there will not be raceways or cabinet signs allowed in the sign program. And so the submittal and approval process will go through as such. So it will be submitted through the property owner and their approval, and it will, after that approval, they will submit them to the city with through the building permit application process. And so essentially, I'll have 2 kind of reviews before then it gets installed. I'm sure everyone has seen the Newick project, but kind of an idea of where that is now. Actually, the project sign is installed, as you see on the right side of the presentation. That's the blade sign that they've already installed since the project is coming into fruition. So we want to establish the sign program before those tenants or potential tenants are to move in. And so staff has determined that this is exempt under CEQA, under accessory structures and premise signs, section 53.1. And so staff recommends that the planning commission approve the Pueblo Viejo sign program for the findings and condition for resolution PC 2022-11. I believe the applicant is also still with us through Zoom, and I'm going to answer any questions.
thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, so
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. So these are illuminated signs or channel signs that have lighting on the inside, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, because one of the other options, I think it would look nice also would be like the wood signs with a wrought iron, and then what you do is you build a scot on top of it to light up the sign. Instead of having the sign, all the mechanical stuff on the inside of the channel sign, so. I mean, we gotta look at that one too as an option.
Yeah, they do have that option. They could
Okay.
also choose to be non-illuminated and the illumination could come from
Build a-
external.
Yeah, put a scot on it or something. And then wrought iron around the wood and stuff, but I think the cardboard looks real nice. But we just, I don't know, we gotta be a little more consistent on the downtown area. And specifically, I'm really emphasizing that because I think that, we're trying to keep that Pueblo Viejo concept, the other stuff on the outside of the city. And everybody obviously wants a big shiny sign, but
Absolutely. And so this will definitely put them in a more standardized.
Yeah.
Sizing and look. So they have that option for.
perfect, thank you.
I saw one of the pictures of the renders that you show a sign that is like almost 20 feet, 16 feet. How tall is the sign? The one that you show in one of the pictures. Can you put it back, the presentation? So I think
That was an example, I think, wasn't it?
that was an example,
Yeah,
but it's pretty high. It's like,
Like where it's placed. on
how
the-
wide is it placed?
Yeah, and it's there right now, so I know what you're talking about. It's not like the sign is actually that tall, but
Oh.
it's placed tall.
It's placed tall.
Yes.
But that's the actual height it's gonna be at, or it's gonna. Can you put back the presentation so I can?
Sure.
Like the perspective.
In one of the photos.
One of the photos, yes. Down. One more. I think it's right there on the right hand side. It's pretty tall. I mean, this from the sidewalk to the sign.
oh, that one, there,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
the blade
it's kind of
sign?
floating.
meaning like it's not very visible.
I think,
Yes.
I think maybe 8-10 feet would be appropriate, yeah?
Yes,
Yeah, that's kind of.
Yeah,
that's kind of.
'cause that's pretty much high level, yeah.
Where is it?
Well, especially if you have visitors and they're like, well, where am I? And I'm
Where am
like,
I?
I'm in the Pueblo Viejo area, especially, when you have all, like, this past weekend, if you were out.
Would that
Here.
make sense where it's at or lower?
I think it's identified the height as such. I think
Height.
the issue is, or the discussion is that it's a little bit too small, right, for the scale. Is that what it
Right,
is?
and it's like
Yeah.
super
Yeah,
high
super
up, so
high.
you have to go like, if you're kind of coming close. I get what Commissioner Leal is saying.
What is that? Maybe like a
It's probably like
3x2 or?
something like that. But we can revisit that as part of the approval of the sign program. And so
Okay.
we will make sure that it's,
And then what would
The
make sense
scale.
is, I don't know if it's probably too late now to run power to it. It can go off one of the receptacles or something to put a
To be lighted.
photo cell on there.
uh,
So when it gets dark, it'll light up by
it'll
itself.
light up.
Because you can't really see it there with the lighting that's being provided. right now.
Mhm.
It was, I remember the fence had some lighting on it, right?
Yes.
Is it right now?
It should be, because it has some, it should have some sort of lighting.
Yeah,
to make sure-
yeah.
yes, It calls for a external illumination.
You get the electricians to go in there and run a service to the light to the toppers. Oh, yeah, there is light in there.
Supposed to
Yeah,
have those, yeah.
I don't see them on that sign.
Commissioners, if you have a recommendation of that, we can bring that back to Chelsea. I mean, yeah, I understand your point. I actually thought it was going to be brought
Down.
lower.
Mhm.
And I was surprised to actually see that. I don't know if it's beneficial.
Well, I think I think the important part is for it to be visible when people are, looking for the location. And obviously they'll be able to read the sign as soon as they,
Yeah.
drive by it.
Typically, the blade signs are more like a pedestrian sign, right?
Mhm.
So if you're walking, that's not the pedestrian level.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna put this in.
Yeah.
We could certainly talk to the applicant in terms of that particular identification sign. And I agree that it's an important way to kind of locate yourself there in the downtown. So We could condition.
Yeah.
I don't know if the lighting on the art piece will actually provide lighting for that sign. I don't know.
I think it's too hard.
Is it kind of far, or too far?
Mhm.
Okay.
Unless the
Oh, yeah,
palm
it
tree-
is.
you
Yeah, it
said-
is. I'm looking at it from here.
Yeah, that palm tree has lighting, so I know. And that'll give it light.
Yeah. Maybe you could do that. Is there a palm tree? Maybe that'd be easier. There's a palm tree. I'd probably have power to the palm tree. We have lights and then maybe just be able to go put a spotlight or something on it.
Well, I think it already does have a light. That's why.
Does it? I
Yeah.
don't see no.
And if it doesn't, it was supposed to.
It's
Okay.
Based on the, it has the lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It
that's
has the lighting,
It's
yeah.
on here.
If you drive over there, you won't see it tonight, and next.
We'll vote on next time.
15 minutes from now, we'll find out.
Okay,
You make condition.
okay, so I haven't opened up the public hearing. So at 7:11, we are opening up the public hearing. Do we have any public comments? No. Okay, so at 7:11, we're gonna close the public hearing. And would anyone like to make a motion on this item?
So, alongside staff's recommendation, I'd like to approve, could you put up the condition?
The recommendation, it's one of the last.
Right, so alongside staff's recommendation, I would like to motion to approve.
Oh,
The Pueblo Viejo VS Signs Program with the findings and the conditions listed in Resolution PC 2022-11 alongside the condition to revisit the
Existing.
existing sign.
I'll second the motion.
Can I get some clarification on that? Is there a height that you think is the best
Yeah.
height?
They,
You probably don't want something that's on.
yeah, I think maximum 10 foot, right? I think that would be.
Miguel, we need Miguel's expertise. He's a designer.
Yeah, as long as you can read it like not. You don't have to go out. you know, 10
Miguel
feet.
designs and I build it, so.
I think 10 feet will be good.
Yeah, 10 feet.
And then you had a second.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, can we get roll call, please?
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Figueroa,
Aye.
Commissioner Leah,
Hi.
Vice Chair Navarrete,
Aye.
and Madam Chair Behan.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to item number 5. And this is the Cannabis Business Streamline Code Amendments Zoning Ordinance 22-02.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Plan Commission. This item is pretty quick. Staff is recommending continuance on this item. Just to let you know what that item is about, that staff is preparing code amendment to our cannabis business regulations. There was a study session that happened in January with the city council about ways to make it easier for cannabis businesses to open in the city. And we saw some obstacles in the way that our ordinances were written, and opportunities to make it easier. So those will be brought back to you when they're ready. So we're just recommending that be continued to your meeting on May 4th.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Okay, we're continuing, okay. So can I get a motion to continue the same?
A motion this item, a motion to continue this item until the Planning Commission meeting of May 4th, 2022.
Perfect. Can
I
we get a
second Figueroa's
Okay, wonderful.
motion.
Can we get roll call, please?
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Figueroa.
Aye.
Commissioner Leah.
Aye.
Vice Chair Navarrete,
Aye.
and Madam Chair Behan.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna move on to our informational item. Do we have anything from staff?
Yeah, just a quick announcement. I did email the plan commission about this and this was brought up at the last plan commission meeting. So Riverside Local Agency Formation Commission, which is known as LAPCO, they have provided some public draft of the municipal service reviews that they conducted for cities in the Coachella Valley. And so you might be wondering, what's the municipal services review? Well, that would be looking at all the services that the city does provide within the different cities. And so my understanding is LAPCO uses that as a basis to determine where potentially cities would grow like in the future. So for example, the city of Coachella has a sphere of influence outside our city boundaries where the city could grow. So LAPCO determines those boundaries where the cities could grow. And that's changed over time. So the sphere of influence for Coachella in the early 2000s actually used to go all the way to Monroe Street, kind of by the polo grounds.
Oh.
And then I believe in 2007, 2008, it changed and a lot of that became looking at the sphere of influence. So the sphere of influence today, if you look at that map, is maybe I can actually put it out here. Can you see? This doesn't work. Okay. I'm gonna do this on the mic so that you can see. So our sphere of influence is this dotted line over here on the west side, and then here by the airport, and down on the east side.
Okay.
So if you were to see that sphere of influence on the west side, it was significantly reduced in the early 2000s. And so, so this is an opportunity for the Plan Commission or members of the community to provide comments about our municipal services review, but also about the potential for the city's sphere of influence. And so we were trying to coordinate a presentation by a LAPCO representative to be able to speak to the Plan Commission, but the timing didn't work out. So the deadline for those comments is next week, Wednesday, on April the 27th. So we do recommend if you'd like to review that, that's available on their website. I did send a link to the Plan Commissioners about it. It's on the LAPCO website. So Coachella Municipal Services Review on there. And then there will be a meeting that the LAPCO will have at some point in the near future about the municipal services reviews from different cities, and they approve of at that point. So, but I just wanted to let you know about that because a lot of times the Plan Commission, or sometimes the City Council isn't aware that LAPCO is conducting those reviews.
So you're saying, what is the impact? You said that on Wednesday is a deadline. This is a 10-year study, so it's LAPCO does these studies every 10 years, and it's unfortunate because I think we should have been on top of the game on this one. That's important. That's the future of our city and how we're going to build and expand and what we're going to provide for our community in terms of the tax base on development. And so you're saying that Wednesday is the final, or
for comments, and then there's obviously going to be an opportunity to comment when LAPCO considers the municipal services review. So when that date comes up, I can let the Plan Commission know, but when that meeting happens, likely I'll be there to speak on behalf of the city. But it's also an opportunity for residents if they want to be able to speak to us. So I'm not sure if there's a Zoom option, but I can figure that out as well, because that's not going to be anywhere close to.
when's the date on that one?
The meeting, I don't know yet.
Okay.
So the meeting is on the 27th. That's when the due date is for the.
I think it's important that, that the commission's engaged and that we have a little, say so in terms of what we feel, the impact should be in our city. So
Would it be possible to share, to maybe share that on the city's social media pages, like to inform the community that, hey, this is happening, You can provide public comment next week, Wednesday, April 27th. Just putting that there, because I know a lot of people will see it. A lot of our nonprofits will see it and they will share that information. So that would be very helpful.
Yeah, we should have engaged all the nonprofits and everybody else. The importance of, the study, it's 10 years, so it's like the census, so, it's that's a long time, 10 years. So we have 10 years to prepare to actually address the LAFCO and tell them what our concerns are and what we feel is fair for our city.
Yeah, definitely. And we have communicated to LAFCO that there's a sewer and water boundary that's outside the city limits. That since we provide sewer and water service in areas that are outside the city limits, kind of this is Santa Rosa area, those are areas that we feel because we already service those areas and it's an agreement between the city and CDWD that our sphere of influence cover those areas.
Yeah, I think the Monroe Street makes sense, and I think our influence actually was even further back then, and La Quinta came in, Indio came in, but I think we have justifications like on 52 in the cemetery area, we have, the school district, it's part of our district also, so we have a junior high school there, and then I think the school district owns the corner of Monroe Street and 52 also that they ran out to the Cucha, the Golden Voice guys, and Monroe Street. So I think that's my opinion. I think the boundary should be there on Monroe and go back across. But
Yeah. So
make our,
we provide those comments to LAFCO. If you know property owners in sphere areas that might be a sphere of influence for the city, let us know too, because my understanding when we talk to the LAFCO representative is that they really listen to property owners that would be affected and could go into a sphere of influence of the city. So the input of the property owners makes a big difference. So if you have contacts with them, I'd have to reach out and try to coordinate those comments.
I think what we ought to, my recommendation is maybe set up a special meeting and bring in the commission and try to engage the nonprofits and people that are interested in the issue. And then we can take it from there, that we have a little more impact in terms of, writing letters and addressing the LAFCO committee.
Yeah, we could do that if that's something that the commission wanted to do.
Do I have to make a motion or?
No, you can't take any action. It's only an informational item. So if there is going to be a special meeting, then Gabriel can just handle that at a later time.
Yeah, or the chair can call a special meeting. The chair also has the ability to do that just on their own.
All right, I'll email you about that.
But yeah, if you want to let me know if that's something that you want to do after the meeting.
Okay.
Then we can coordinate sometimes. Because the next plan commission meeting is May 4th, which is after the April 27th date, so. For that, I'll go for it.
Thanks, Gabe. Okay, do we have any more informational items?
No, that's it.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. All right, so at 7:24 p.m., we're gonna go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you, staff. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.